Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, True Stories from the 911 Dispatchers Who Live Them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, Rapid Deploy, as well as Carbyne. That's right. In this episode, we are announcing a new sponsor, and this is amazing. This is so good. I have their CEO with me here today. His name is Amir. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things that are going on with Carbyne and have the audience learn more about what it is that they do and how they came to be in public safety. We are currently here live at the 2021 APCO conference. We're in San Antonio, Texas, and we're in the Expo Hall right now. This is day number 2, and there's been so much that's been going on. It has been excellent. And Amir, it is excellent to have you here. Thank you very much, sir, for being on.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great.
Yes, it's been awesome to see everything that is going on with your company. And before we get really into this, how did you get into public safety to begin with, and how did Carbyne start?
Yeah, this is a great question. Basically, as in every company, I found myself 7 years ago, roughly, being grabbed on the beach in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. And for my first time in my life, I called to emergency services. And as you would expect when you're calling to emergency services, they know all about you, where you are, who you are. But the fact was that I had to deliver so much information, and it took them ages to find where I am and what is happening to me. They started to ask me questions like what the people are wearing, and can you describe where exactly you are, because I was in the beach. And it was absolutely unpleasant experience. So I went back to sit on a bar with a friend and thought to myself, how come, we're in the 21st century, all of us are holding those amazing mobile devices. Why we can't share information with emergency services? So we went to the Israeli National EMS and we came and said, hey, we have an idea. We would like to provide you real-time video, real-time location. It was 7 years ago. And they say, oh, this is amazing, but the system that we have are so antique. We have on-prem wire-based capabilities. Our screen's user interface is not programmable. So we basically realized that if we want to make a change, to leave a legacy in this world, we have to redesign the entire platform A to Z. So we started from data to the infrastructure to the call control and call management. And this is what Carbyne is basically doing in these days.
This is perfect, man. Yeah, there's so much, right, that goes into it. And even for myself. So when I started in public safety, it was in 2001. But when I ended up moving back to Southwest Michigan to the county that I worked for, or lived in rather, that phone system as well. Like, we didn't have caller ID or anything for it, so people would call, and a lot of those emergencies would happen on the non-emergency line. Well, how do you get a hold of someone when they call saying they want to kill themselves, but it's on a non-emergency line and there's no callback? What do you do? And you just basically hope that they end up calling back, or you've heard their voice before and you know them. So experiencing this, and I find also that that's how a lot of stuff happens. You experience something and you want to make that change, and that's exactly what happened here.
Absolutely, and I must say that I'm traveling all over the state now, and I'm seeing a bunch of different PSAPs and directors, and there is still PSAPs in the United States that are copy pasting 12 numbers from the screen to Google Maps to understand where people are.
Yes,
and it just not makes any sense. So it's all about education. Remove the fear of using cloud services and kind of a new age technologies.
Yes.
There is a famous sentence saying, no one ever been fired by acquiring IBM. So it's true, but I think that the cloud is stable enough. There is a lot of newcomers into the industry that have strong references and kind of not small companies anymore as Carbyne and others. And the time is now. COVID taught us that you cannot, bind yourself to the status quo, and you have to always kind of rethink about what your people need, what your people in the agency need, and this is what we're trying to do as a startup company. Yeah. We are looking at something and saying, how can we make it better? What are the challenges? Sitting with call takers, with dispatchers, with responders, and trying to improve their KPIs every day, one step. And I'm happy to see the growth now all over the world, not only in the US, and this is great.
So I live in Florida. So
as you talk about, you've been traveling to a bunch of different dispatch centers out there. What has it been like when you're talking about change? Because no one likes change. I remember being in dispatch, and we were changing to a different system, a different CAD system, and nobody wanted. We didn't want that change, but it was good because we needed that change.
Yeah, so I think the world change is a big world especially for public safety.
Yes,
and for a few reasons. First of all, it's all about funding, right? And how do I bringing new funding to fund stuff that are not traditionally used to pay for?
Yes.
Okay, video to 911 never was budgeted, right? Cloud services, what does it mean? I'm usually paying one-time upfront payment to one of the vendors here in the hall, and then they're taking me 17% maintenance year over year. What does it sus? Like, what does it mean? So a lot of questions. In addition to that, traditionally in the history, to implement new solution was very painful. A lot of integration, on-premise equipment, a lot of hardware. We was literally speaking with agencies in California that the CAD vendors are still delivering in 5 years. 5 years the solution, for 5 years. It's insane. So I think now, post-COVID, there is funding coming from the federal government for innovation, okay, for next generation 911. COVID kind of put a mirror in government's face and say, hey, we are not ready. What's going on? Everybody are working from home, but our call takers have to go back to the PSAP every day, so we need to make a change. And the end of all that, the beauty is that you have cloud solutions now. So we delivered New Orleans or big agencies in Florida in 2 days, 1 day, few hours. Okay.
What?
So I think this is the beauty of, forget all what you used to know.
Yes.
Funding is now available. Okay, you need to do it, and it's clear because the citizens are requesting that, but we can also do it for you very fast. So with those three elements, the combination of those three, you're actually starting to see progress happening in the market, and this is great.
Oh man, that gives me chills because as I was talking about, when we switched to that one system, I mean, it was weeks and weeks of training and then implementation, and then it was just things were messing up, and we would be typing, and it would take forever for it to catch up to what it was that we were typing, and it was just such a pain. But to be able to hear this and to see it be implemented that fast, and just people can just start going on using it, I mean, that's amazing.
Absolutely. And again, this is what we are telling to the industry, and at the end of the day, we are here to help. We understand that PSAPs are not tech shops. So there is many great companies that are dropping bunch of different technologies on PSAPs. It's all about training, liability, the right way of use of technology, and at the end of the day, the technology need to serve the PSAPs and the dispatchers to make their work better, right? So you need to understand really what is the call taker KPI. It's time to dispatch, right? He needs to see only what he needs to see, not too much information. You cannot overload him with too much stuff.
Right.
And you need to make decision as fast as possible. This is a real event, and it's related to fire and EMS. And then the fire and EMS dispatchers needs to see the information. They are not speaking with the caller, and their KPI is responder safety and time to arrival. So they need to see the information, but you don't need to, they don't need to speak with the caller. So this is a small example of how basically you need to listen, you need to understand what is missing.
Right.
But in the end of the day, we need to remember that there is people that are going to run those solutions, and they have their own KPIs that they need to meet. So you need to work together in order to help them to make their job easier.
Right, for sure. So you're taking all of this feedback and everything. Let's just say, for example, as you were talking, out of New Orleans, they're using, they've got all of this stuff, and I'm sure that if they have a suggestion or a feature or something like that, you take that into account because those are the ones who are going to help you mold and improve on the system that you have out there already.
Yeah. So when we sold this system to New Orleans and some other agencies as well, basically what we are saying is once you have Carbyne now deployed in your platform, not only Carbyne, a cloud solution is the foundation for the future. Otherwise, you won't be able to adapt to the old technology that are coming in. So the cloud infrastructure, the sophistication around the architecture and all what we've put in place, this is what important. It's like when you bought for your first iPhone, right? Why you bought it? Because you knew that it's like super hard, super strong, basically technology, super strong hardware, sophisticated, and you knew that all the new application that will come, afterwards, they will all develop into iPhone.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So you knew that whatever going to be there out there, whatever app, you're going to have it in your like banks, ride sharing, anything is built into the iPhone. So I think acquiring a cloud solution today is like you're investing in your future, because you know that in the end of the day, ride sharing applications, drones, CCTVs, IoT stuff will all come and work with the newcomers, and not the one that for those IoT devices, the implementation will take 1 year. It won't happen. So, this is the right choice, and this is what you need to do.
Oh man, it's exciting. And so I've said this a few times today to a few people that I've spoken to, but I get a little jealous in a way, because I didn't have this when I was in dispatch. There was so much other stuff that we had to go through in order to even find someone, or just anything, track somebody down. All this different technology and stuff just wasn't there. So when I hear you talk about this, or anybody else who's talking about technology in public safety, I get a little jealous, because I want to be back in there to implement some of this stuff, use some of this and really take advantage of it. But I'm also happy that stuff like this is coming out, because it helps everyone involved.
Yeah, and I think it's every few years there is kind of a big evolution or revolution, if you want, that are happening in certain industries. Mm-hmm. So usually public safety and government tech in general was kind of latecomers into a party. So cloud services and IP communication and rich data sharing and all that, was introduced, 10, 15 years ago, but now it's becoming stable enough, reliable enough. You have enough, users and enterprises that are using it, that can say, this is strong, the uptime is like 5.9, so you can use it, you can trust it. And then you're starting to get those early adapters, and then you're getting COVID, and now everybody is saying, oh my God, we have to work with the cloud, blah, blah. And it's like, this is the moment that is the wave is starting.
Right.
And it's a very unique, I think, point in our lifetime, where you're literally going to see next generation 911 really becoming to a reality. Because I remember myself coming into the US 5 years ago, and next generation was text to 911, and that's it.
Right. Yes.
And now it's kind of so many things, and the crowd that I met in Upcode 2021 is kind of like speaking this language already, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I fully agree that COVID really pushed a lot of this forward, because the same as you, those years ago, it was text 911. That's all it was. But even before that, everyone kept talking about next generation 911, talking, what it could be, what it might be. No one really knew, so it was still just discussion. And then COVID happens. Everyone has to think outside of the box, and is starting to embrace a lot of this technology. And like you're saying, this is what everything is we're talking about now.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, I think the point that we are all currently living is very, very unique, kind of a post or at the end of a pandemic, I would say.
Yeah.
Carefully.
Yeah.
Carefully.
Exactly.
But COVID was huge to accelerate digitalization for governments, not only in public safety. I had to do some processes in Israel now we have an apartment in Tel Aviv. So my bank, had to approve my identity. So before I had to come to the bank, sit there, show me your ID, take a picture and all that. Now, they're sending you a link from Israel to United States. Click the link. Okay, we can see you. It's automatically reading your ID, taking the information.
That's crazy.
It's amazing. And it's
awesome.
It's not only on public safety, but at this point of our life, post-pandemia, is huge, because the federal money is coming, and people kind of stepped 5 years ahead to prepare themselves for the future, which is unknown, which is great.
When you talk about like video to 911, how is some of that working? Because I will tell you this. Let's see, what was it now? Maybe 7 years ago or so. I remember being in dispatch, and seeing a demo for, do you remember Google Glass?
Yeah.
I remember seeing a demo for Google Glass, and it showed a dispatcher and someone at home, and so they were like being able to view both of it. And I thought, is that really what it's going to be like? Like that's interesting. So when you talk about video to 911, how does that work? And when you're working with dispatch centers, how do you work with them to decide how much dispatch can see? Because it's not enough that we're taking these calls and we're piecing it together in our heads. There's a lot of mental health and wellness issues with that as well. But so when you think about video, though, how does that part work? Like, do they get a choice, or how does it even work?
Yeah. So let's talk first from a technical perspective.
Sure.
What's the call process, right?
Yes.
I'm a citizen. I'm calling to 911. Location will be presented automatically on the Carbyne platform.
Yeah.
Now the call taker have a decision whether or not he wants to send the link. It's going to be automatic or manually to request the citizen to share real-time video. Okay, because it's because of privacy and we have to get access to the device, but we have to have a real-time consent from the citizen. There is no kind of a right and wrong in video to 911. So there is, probably 80% of the events that you can have in your shift, you will not need to activate the camera. But on those 20%, which can be baby that is now being delivered and the mom, couldn't make it to the hospital and she need a paramedic help, and her husband is actually standing, near to her and then willing for some help, and the paramedic can actually see what's going on and give him instructions.
Yes.
So would you use video? Yes or no? Of course, the answer is yes. If there is a massive car accident and you have multiple injuries, okay, and first nurses or paramedics are in the field, and I don't know, the EMS wants to understand the severity of the event and how many ambulances he needs to. So it's a good thing or not. So I think that we all have still to learn, on the use of video and the impact of video on our kind of, public safety response system, okay, and the impact on the call takers and the dispatchers and all that. And Carbyne is implementing a bunch of different capabilities to make sure that call takers and dispatchers are not exposed to video where they don't need to, with the ability to close the video and still record it on the background. So we have a bunch of stuff that we are doing, but be very kind of straightforward here. We all understand that video will be in 911. There is no question about it.
Right.
The next generation, which is my daughter, she's 5. She don't know what is to speak over voice with my family. She's only FaceTiming. Okay, so she will call to 911. The commodity will be video to 911.
Right.
It will take 10 years, but it will be there. So what we need to do as a companies in this space is really to work with our partners, clients, from the call takers, dispatchers, responders, and to build the protocols around the use of video to 911. But I can tell you that last year we've delivered 1.3 million minutes of video to emergency services worldwide.
Wow.
And the impact is insane, is really insane.
That's amazing.
So again, not for every call, not all the time. Maybe you need it just for 2 seconds to understand what the person is wearing, and that's enough.
Right.
But video is here to stay. The use, it's something that we will have to work on it.
That is awesome. I have a daughter that's 5 as well. My youngest is 5. So that makes me think, when you were saying that, it's like, she has done so much FaceTime that's what she's getting into. That it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's again, we always intend to speak about next generation technologies, but when I'm referring to next generation, is your daughter.
Yeah.
She's the next generation, and we want to make sure that the legacy that we are leaving for them is strong enough, so when they, for God's sake, will need 911,
yes,
they won't need to communicate where they are, what they're wearing, what the people are wearing. So it will be literally one click, we are coming, thank you, that's it.
Perfect.
And this is what we're aiming for, and it will require a lot of changes.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's been excellent to have you on here. We're going to go into the wrap up of this episode, but before we get into that, I have one last question for you, and it's just, what are you excited about for things that are coming up with Carbyne? What are some of the things you're excited about?
Wow, that's Carbyne has been so many great, much great momentum in the recent kind of couple of months. So basically, we are introduced our Apex platform, which is a consolidation of data and voice element all in one place. So basically, we are the only next generation now on cloud call management platform. We are seeing more and more agencies coming and asking like the right questions about the use of the platform. Not anymore cloud, yes, no, great, what we can be benefiting from that. We are getting tons of success stories and really saving lives on a daily basis. And I think the combination of seeing your company growth, seeing your dream coming to fruition, and see the industry changing, all in a one kind of a big pieces of the puzzle that are becoming together. This is super exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is excellent. Well, thank you again for
you.
being on. This is awesome, and also for Carbyne, being a new sponsor of the podcast as well. I know that there are some announcements that are going to be coming up. So for those who are watching and listening, make sure to stay tuned for that. Carbyne's got some amazing stuff that is on the horizon. Thank you again very much, Amir, for being on. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital, Rapid Deploy, as well as Carbyne. And so good to have you here with the Code 7 Podcast Network family once again. And a shout out to patrons. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn. It can be heard 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you in the next